about it. All right, we are from the New Jersey Centers for Independent Living. We have a little presentation we're going to do with you about our services and about some transitioning services. I also have Susan Mazzeo with me from Moceans. They cover Oceans and Monmouth County. We cover Camden and Gloucester counties, and at the end of the slideshow, you will have all of the centers and which counties they provide, so you'll know which center to go to. All right, so first, we're just a little bit about what is independent living. Independent living is a philosophy which states people with disabilities should have the same civil rights, choices, and control as people without disabilities. Independent living is about choice. A lot of people with disabilities do not have the same rights and choices right now as other people without disabilities, and it's mainly because of the barriers that they face. A lot of the barriers could be, the two most important are housing, and I would say, well, food insecurity too, but transportation. Yeah, those are the two biggest barriers for people to get into employment and to be able to be healthy in their communities. So that is one of the things that we literally need to work on. Centers or independent livings, we are a grassroots advocacy-driven organizations. Most of the people that work for us have disabilities. So you have people with disabilities working for people with disabilities. We do focus on civil rights, independent living, and inclusion. All centers provide individual and systems advocacy, information and referral, peer support, independent living skills training, and transitioning. And we will talk a little bit about each one of those in the further slide. A lot of this came out of the Act in 1973. And then a lot of it came back out, and when we had our ADA redo a lot of their things in the 90s. Most of our centers for independent livings, we use word consumer in reference to people with various forms of disabilities. A lot of people with disabilities, the word consumer is an empowering one. They want to be a consumer. They want to be a taxpayer. They want competitive work. It's just the barriers that we need to help change so that they can get there. Reflecting on an individual's right to make informed decisions regarding their best interest. In other words, we want people to be able to self-advocate. They want to be able to advocate for themselves. A lot of times they can't, and that's where we come in. We do advocate for people, but we also teach people how to advocate for themselves, which is big. Independent living framework, the word consumer also emphasizes shared experiences, and that is regardless of the form of disability. Centers for Independent Living, we work from people from birth to earth, and we work with all types of disabilities, which is one of the things that separates our organizations from others. We're not just one disability orientated. We do them all, including intellectual, developmental, and physical. So, and that's a big thing there too. So this is going into our core services. We have 5 main core services, information and referral being our biggest thing. If you call us with anything, questions you may have, cannot navigate the system, don't know who to contact, we will be able to tell you who to contact. If we do not provide the service that you're looking for, we can at least refer you to somebody that does. Individual and systems advocacy, that mainly means making changes in the community, out in the world, making transportation like more accessible. Could be curb cuts in your neighborhood. It could be stores that you cannot get into. And it could just be legislative changes, changing some laws, changing some regulations. And we can help with that. We write letters. We actually go to Trenton. We will protest if we have to. We protested for the Medicare changes, and we will help that way. Our biggest thing for the youth would be our peer counseling and support. We all have youth groups. We have peer support groups. We have socialization groups. And then on our 4th one, our independent living skills instructions. We teach people soft skills. Anything, it could be from riding the bus to cooking, cleaning, or taking your own transportation, learning to pass a driving test, anything that it is that you may need that could make you more independent out in the community or to even get a job. We do a lot of job readiness skills as well. And the facilitating transition, that's one of our new core services that we just added within the last 5 years. And that is more or less trying to get people out of nursing homes or institutions and back into the community. Sometimes it takes just a little bit of assistive technology. Other times it may be they need a home health aide full time. And now with all the home health aides that are out there and companions, we are able to keep people in homes. We also like to call it nursing home diversions, which means we get them before they're even put into the nursing home, and they're able to stay in their home. It's so much easier and it's cheaper for the state, actually. So we work through with the insurance companies to get people to be able to stay, home health aides that insurance companies will pay for, and now I can stay in my home. And that's a big one that we're still working on, as it's new, but we're doing pretty well with that one. And then these are some of the centers and which counties they serve. As you will see, each county has a specific center that they serve, and some of us have multiple counties. I know Moceans, you do Monmouth and Ocean. Is there a difference between the two counties?
I mean, one is a little bit more, I guess, rural, spread out. Ocean County is a little bit more spread out. Monmouth is tends to be a little bit more urban, but the need is there in both counties.
So do you find the transition being harder in one county than the other, the rural county?
I think the needs are still the same, right? The housing, transportation, it really doesn't matter. I think those needs are kind of universal across the state. So yeah.
I'll agree there. I do.
Yeah.
Now we do Camden County. We seem to not have as much problem with the transportation, only because there's a lot of cities. And Gloucester, like you said, we're very rural, so we do have issues with where Access Link will not go. Right. So we are all working on that. So hopefully we can change that as well. And the last slides are literally just giving you all your local sills. It gives you the phone numbers, the emails. They all have websites. I suggest if you find your county to go on their website and find out some of the events that they do. We all do different events. I know some of us have food pantries. Some of us may do, like, I know, Susan, you do support coordination, right, which we do not do at our office. So each one does have a little bit of different things that they cover. So it's good to go on the websites and find out. Now, if one center does something like support coordination and another center does not, we can just refer. Lisa does pick up support coordination in my county, and she does Burlington. So we do have this, the service. We just, use a different center to do it, as they have more capabilities than we do. And I think that's more or less just mostly all our local sills are written up there. Go through them and you can, yep. And that is it for this one. Okay, welcome to the School to Adult Life. So this is more or less a little roadmap to transitioning from school to adult life. And if you see on this first slide, that it says the child, younger person, adult, where there's transitioning in the middle, there's gaps. And this is what we're trying to, avoid, is that when you leave school, you don't have that huge gap before you go to adult services, which usually don't start till you're 24. So when you leave school, you're 18 to 21. There's that little bit of time in between that we're trying to not have a gap for. So what is really transition? Transitioning is moving from one thing to another. It's a lifelong change. When you get married, it's a transition. When you graduate high school, there's a transition. Whenever you do any big change in your life, we call it a transition. So a lot of times when you're planning for your adulthood, you would like to have some kind of a plan or goals or things. And that's where we can come in and help with that. So again, it's telling you, look, I keep moving things. Transition, it's activity, service. It could be accommodations to your job. You were used to accommodations in school with your IEP. So when you go to get a job, your 504 will follow you with you to that job. So if you need some sort of accommodation to help make your job successful, that is where we can come in to help advocate for that. We also have other agencies that can help do that as well, like DVRS. And it gives you that accommodation at work so that you're not losing your job because of things that, if little something could have been done to make you keep that job. So this is why we're trying to keep people in competitive employment. They definitely need to have a 504 so they can have accommodations. All right, so the basic timeline, it starts at 14. Do you get services at 14? Not a lot. You get a lot of guidance and things that you should be learning to do so that when you do or are at 18, you don't just say, what do I do now? So you can open up a case at 14 to start your transitioning. Mainly that would be mainly high school classes I need to take for my goals. Things I need to put in my IEP before I graduate so that they're already in there. A big thing is that goal when you are exiting school to make sure a lot of things get put in your IEP so that they'll follow you around. So there is no bar about that. What they're saying is don't wait. Don't wait. Wait till when you're at 14, start looking into it. A lot of services won't kick in for 2 or 3 years after you've done paperwork, so it's good to get started. All right, so entitlement, it's more that you are entitled to certain services, but they must be in your plan. You cannot walk into an employer and say, I am entitled to these, long breaks because I got them in high school. It doesn't work that way. It has to be in your 504 plan for you to be entitled to any supports, any activities, services, or accommodations. So individuals with disabilities, there is an IDI law, and that ensures that they provide early intervention. It is in schools that you should get intervention. You should be hooking up with your DVRS office before you graduate school, because that is a big one. But it depends when your disability was diagnosed. A lot of people are diagnosed at birth, and then they would have their early intervention services early. Other services may not kick in until 3 to 27, depending upon when you got your diagnosis from the doctors. So again, these are all going to just tell you about the 504, where you can go for help and what things you would want to make sure that are included. And most schools, they have the funding to do these for you. If you have a school that says they do not, please call us because we can advocate, because yes, they do. So your IEP plan. Biggest thing I have to tell students is to go to your IEP meetings. Do not let some of your teachers and your other adult plan your whole future for you without you being there and having a say. That's what we're calling self-advocacy. You want to go to these meetings. You want to advocate for yourself. You don't want other people planning your whole future. And there should be at least 2 IEP meetings a year. And then there's usually one in the beginning of the year and then an exit one for the next year. So, and that's where the 504, it is very, there's a lot of accommodations in there, but if you don't do that exit IEP meeting from high school, the things will not get written in there that you need. And this will follow you to college as well, any trade school or any job. And there's a lot to say about the 504s. I'm not going to sit and read each slide word for word because there's a lot, but I'm sure you would be able to read this. If you did have any questions, you could always contact your centers. They would be more than happy to explain in full all about the IEPs and 405. So transitioning. So like we said, it's for age 14 and above. It's designed to be a results-oriented process focusing on easing the child's movement from school to post-school activities, meaning anything you're doing after you graduate. It is literally based on your individual needs, and it does take into account your strengths, preferences, interests. It also takes into account things that you need extra time for or dislike or cannot do. It includes instruction. It could include transportation. If you got door-to-door transportation to school, then you may need door-to-door transportation to your job. There are door-to-door transportations out there, Access Link. There's some other ones county-based. And there is some ones that the job will actually help you get if you're working in a sheltered workshop, the jobs will help with the transportation. Other supportive services can be written in there. Things for employment, community experiences, and that would be outside of a job or outside of a school setting, just in your community. It could just be joining a baseball team, could be going to the Y, and any other daily living skills. We do a lot of soft daily living skills at our centers. So if you're 14 to 15, it's all about the IEPs. It's about getting things in your IEP that you would need before you graduate. And it's also about getting the classes at school that would help you for whatever career you have decided to pick. So a lot of when you go to your guidance counselor, they help you to decide what classes would help you for that future. The same thing you want into your IEP. And then again, it's continued to make choices. Make sure everything you need in your IEP is in there before you exit. While you're in ninth grade, you do have a few years to work on it, but in that senior year, you really want to make sure everything is in the IEP that you would need. Now, when you're 16, same thing. Now you're going more for the functional psychology and vocational things that are going to be put in there, which means you may have to do a little bit of seeing doctors, getting neurology reports, getting psych evals, and things that would go into your exit. And again, same thing, and contact DVR. If you have not contacted DVR by age 16, please make sure you do. Because 18, you will start getting services, but this way they have time to build that timeline, build that 504, and go through some jobs. You may say you want to do a certain job and then find out after you start doing it that it's not for you. Nothing's written in stone, so they can change things, but it's nicer if you know what you want by at least 18. It does help them to help find a job that is great for you. And then at 17, you will be doing the CAD. It's literally just interest, career interest, what you would be good for. And then usually they'll ask you to do 2 short-term goals and 2 long-term goals. So short-term goals, I may be able to finish by the end of the year. Long-term goals may be something that's 5 years, 8 years out. And another thing, just to be if some of you may need guardianship or other legal protections, this is the time to start looking into that. Because once you turn 18, you may need somebody to help you. Then they might have to go out and get guardianship or what they call limited guardianship, which would mean they would help out some but not take away all the rights. And a special needs trust fund is something else you should know about. If you are collecting SSDI or SSI, you're only allowed to make so much money a year and have so much in the bank. But special needs trust funds, you can have as much money as you want in there. They can't touch it and they can't use it as income. So that's a very important thing too. Can I go back? All right. So 18, 19, this is when you're going to start going for, do I want SSI? Do I want to sign up for SSDI? Do I want to just get a regular competitive job? Can I hold a competitive job? Also applying for Section 8 housing. You may not be ready to live on your own at 18, 19, but since the waiting lists are 2 to 3 years out, it might be something you want to think about getting put on somebody's waiting list for the supportive housing, assisted living housing, things that you may need for in the future. You can't wait until literally there's 3-4 years of waiting lists for these things. And then there's other things, the DVRS they can literally start helping you to either go to college. Some people, they will help pay for some of the college that is income based, but they do have services that are not income based, meaning they can help with finding you a job, getting you resumes. They have job coaches that can stay with you for 100 hours before they'll leave. They may stay with you for 8 hours a day for the first week, and then they kind of withdraw a little bit until you know what you need, and then you feel comfortable with that job knowing that that person helped. DDD services will start kicking in at 21, but you need to sign up for that early too, because there's a waiting list. And there's a lot of evals and psych evals and neurology the things that they will ask for. So I would start getting things together. If you didn't already by 18, do it by 18. Yes, the services don't kick in till 21, but at least if you're already there when you're 21, they'll kick in that day, which is great. Again, DVRS, make sure you go there. And then we do want you to have, I know the thing real is in bold because we like people to have real work experiences in their community. Something else we can offer at our centers, DVRS, they have what they call job sampling. We can send you to different community-based sites, see what ones you like, which ones you don't like. It does help for you to be able to actually do the tasks, to learn more about it and see if it's something you can do. So each center does have some sites set up where they can send people in for job shadowing and counseling. And at 21, you are now an adult. So entitlement-based services end. All of that ends, and everything now you have to be eligible for. So you are no longer entitled to anything. Now you have to sign up for things and see if you're eligible. Some people will be eligible for DDD. Others may be too high functioning and not be eligible for the DDD service. That's when I would say to go to DVRS, because then they would be a better service. And then any of your centers for independent living can help with all of these. We help fill out the DDD paperwork. We help fill out anything else you might need. And we help you to navigate the system, which is not easy to do. There's a lot of different services out there. All right, so just let me go back one. All right, now I know that there's a lot of, with DDD, there's a lot of things called support coordination. And Susan, I know I need you to talk on that, because that's one thing that my center does not do.
Sure. So I just wanted to, if you're okay with me just going back and doing a little bit of back story.
Sure.
So DDD and I'm sure you mentioned this, but it's the Division of Developmental Disability. We kind of use it as a verb, right? But so basically it provides support for people to live an independent life. And in order to be eligible, you need to be a New Jersey resident. You need to be Medicaid eligible, which is a really important thing. And you also have to meet the functional criteria of having a developmental disability. And you have to document that you have a chronic physical and/or intellectual impairment. It has to have manifested itself before the age of 22. It has to be lifelong, and it has to substantially limit your activities either in the following in at least 3 of the following activities: self-care, learning, mobility, communication, self-direction, economic self-sufficiency, and the ability to live independently. So as Theresa said, you will fill an application out. You can find it online. I always Google just Division of Developmental Disability. And then any SIL can help you fill it out. It is actually a little bit more straightforward, but they do require a recent psychological evaluation. It has to have an intellectual disability diagnosis with your IQ score. So those are some really important things. If you're in school, it's a little bit easier to get it, because that's sort of being done as part of your IEP, right? The whole process. And alongside of that, you can be applying for Medicaid. You do not have to have one. You can do them both applications at the same time. You don't need to do one first, get Medicaid, and then apply for DDD, because it is a long process. And part of it is because of collecting, the other documents are pretty straightforward. It's your birth certificate, it's your, it's ID, proof of residency, all of those things. So then once you collect all of those pieces of information, you send it off to, I know in my area, it's for both Monmouth and Ocean County, it's freehold, but it'll be listed in the document. And then the one nice thing about this process is you are assigned a caseworker, so you can call. It's not like when you have to call like an 800 number and get, just who's ever answering the phone. You will get someone who will get to know you, which is good. So then they set up something called a CAT assessment, or a comprehensive assessment tool. And this is used to determine where, your level of need, right? So it's a very broad assessment, and it's used to assess people who need a lot versus high functioning versus low functioning. And I always advise people to be honest when they when they answer these questions, because your answers will determine how much, what level of support you will need. And basically that drills down to how much money you will get, right? You'll be placed in a tier, and then you will receive a budget from the state. And then once you're accepted, once you're found eligible, you will apply to a support coordination agency, of which Moceans does have one. I think I want to say there's about 400 or something in the state. So, and sometimes there is a waiting list, as Theresa said, for the support coordination agency. So once you, decide who your support coordination agency is, then you're assigned a support coordinator, and that person meets with you and you develop your grown-up IEP, right? Or it's called an individual service plan, an ISP. And in that, you can put all the things you want to do. If you want to budget, for transportation, you put that in there. If you want to take classes, you put that in there. It's just all of the things that you want to do and achieve. And then your support coordinator, I will come out in person, I think at least twice a month. So it's really nice to have somebody, to be able to that you can talk to, aside from maybe your parents or your family. It really allows you to have for people living with a developmental disability or any kind of disability, to have a sense of independence. And because services built through Medicaid, a lot of other services will open up. A lot of different day programs will open up. They will only accept people a lot of times if they have DDD. So that's why it's really important. And as Theresa said, start early, because you can apply before you're 21, and then you're ready to go when you hit 21. You can be approved, and then you can choose your agency. So I think that's probably it. It is a really good service, and group homes are also included, or part of this, which is also a really nice thing. And the other really nice thing I like to point out is when people start early and plan, you're not in crisis mode, so it's really easy to make decisions that are, to really think through your decisions and really, make decisions that are best for the person involved.
Now, is it easy? I did have a question for you.
Yeah.
Once they set up their plan, is it easier can they change it?
They can, yes, they can change it. They can work with their support coordinator to change it. And the whole point of this is, as in the beginning, you talked about individual choice. That's sort of the whole point. The person is in charge. The person who's receiving the services is in charge. And in fact, if you do not like your support coordination agency, you can switch. You have the right to switch. So it's all about personal choice and independence. And yes, so
that's great. That's great.
It is great. It is. And, we have a weekly staff meeting, and, we hear the things that the people that provide this service are able to achieve. And it's really awesome. They're living on their own, they're working, they're attending different programs, things they may never thought that they would be able to achieve. So it's a really great program.
That's great. That's great. Mm-hmm. All right. And now I think our last slide, it really gives you a lot of resources. These will be on there. Department of Ed. If you are going to take some college classes, I would suggest you stop by your special needs office. They have people that'll help with notes. They have people who give you extra time for tests, things like that, if you're in your 504. And it really, the support they have at the local college level, I know is awesome. You literally can go back to their office and they'll help you with your homework, help you study, help you learn how to take tests. It's literally could be the difference of you passing or failing them classes. DVRS, why do I keep going so fast? DVRS is definitely where, if you are, say you're not DDD eligible, I mean, you heard all the eligibility requirements and you may not be eligible, then I would suggest you go to DVRS, which is Division of Vocational Rehabilitation Services, because they're the ones that can help you with the job coaches and finding the job if you're not eligible for the DDD. And then we did list all the Commission of the Blind, DDS. We are a world full of acronyms. So, and to be truthfully honest, we say them so much, like you said, it is a verb. DDD just comes out as a verb. So, but they're all listed. They're all listed on what they do. And a lot of them, like, I know if you have a blind or visually impaired, they literally have a bunch of services they do for free as well. Even teaching you how to use the white cane, to learning how to use a computer. And a lot of our centers, we have computers that have JAWS on it, so that find blind and visually impaired people can come right into the center and use them. And the soft skills, we do a lot of job readiness skills. So if you are looking for finding a job, but you're just afraid of going to that interview, don't know exactly what you want to do, contact your cell, because they'll be able to help you. We also do a lot of social groups. Maybe you can get a job, hold the job, but you don't get along well with the other people you have to work with. We can give you little tricks and trades on how to, get along with them people. Not everybody likes everybody that they work with, but you do have to learn to respect and get along with them. So that's another thing we can teach you. And a lot of the centers we have driving training programs now too. So if it's just you're afraid to learn how to drive or can't pass the written test, give us a call. We all have simulators now where we can literally have you put down on the simulator and learn how to drive on the simulator before you do your 6 hours. Because like we were talking about before, transportation being such a big barrier, if we can get some of the students to pass these tests that are able to drive, we would help and do that. And then the rest should just be different educational resources. Span's a good one for parents to go on. They literally have a whole bunch of little Zooms and websites you can click on at any time for any questions, especially the guardianship and the special needs trust funds we talked about earlier. They have a whole lesson on them. So if you need to learn more about them, just hit our resources. We have plenty. And I would like to give a shout out to Carmela to thank her for these slides, because that's why it says Dawn. They cover Morris, Sussex, and Warren counties, and she created this about 5 years ago to do a presentation. So we thought it was awesome, so we just kind of used it. So that's really all about it. Was there other ones? These are Dawn's, and these are the youth and services, which we'll leave up for everybody. These are all the things we talked about. So instead of going through each one, I'll just let you read up on it. And if there are any questions, I know this is a pre-recorded Zoom, but if there are any questions, please reach out to yourself. Call us, email us, go on our website, Facebook page, however you do your social media, and contact us, and we can answer any question. The biggest thing is navigating the system. It's hard if you don't know the agencies that are out there. You can't utilize things you don't know about. So that's where we come involved. We can help. I think that would be about it. Do you have any other comments or anything, Susan, you wanted to add?
I don't think so.
I know I talk very fast. I'm sorry, but like I said, if you have any questions or anything
Yeah, but just to say, yeah, please don't hesitate to reach out, because it is hard to navigate through. And we're here to help you, and we can help you, like, as I think you had mentioned, from beginning to end. And all of our services are free, which I think is also important. And the other thing too is it's even if you're working with another agency, we all still work with you. We don't have to worry about duplication of services or we don't get involved in any of those things because we don't bill. And so that's not a problem.
Right. The only billable services we literally have is through DVRS. So you will never get a bill. Other companies might, but you will never get a bill. Everything is free. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because we get a lot of phone calls asking how much our services cost.
Yeah.
So utilize them.